Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Eddie, and welcome back to another episode of Eddie G's Comic Culture. Once again, the show's brought to you by the good family and friends over at Black Apparel. Sending a special shout out to a friend and brother of mine by the name of Kevin Seawright, thanking him once again for all of the work and wonderful contributions he's done for the show. Letting you guys know right about now that if you guys have a chance or an opportunity, please make sure you check out his website at www.blackapparelblk.com. He's got some excellent content as well as some awesome merchandise for you guys to scope at. So whenever you have the opportunity, make sure you stop on by. And of course, sending a special shout out to my friends from Instagram. First and foremost, the one who's been writing out with me from the very beginning, the Strictly Comedy Vault. He's got an awesome page. If you have an account on Instagram, make sure you check him out. It keeps it constantly refreshed regarding information with films, pop culture, Funko Pop figures as well. It's got an awesome. He's got an awesome set of array of photos. Make sure you guys check him out. He's an up and coming writer as well. And also to Blu-ray Dan, who's a very big inspiration into what I'm doing. He's also got an Instagram page, so if you have an account, make sure you check him out. But even more importantly, he does have a YouTube channel as well where he does reviews and unboxings for Blu-rays and 4K Ultra Blu-rays as well for both old and new movies. Make sure you check him out. He's got some insightful reviews regarding these films as well. And last but not least, my dear friend from New York City, Dennis Knight, who is a writer for his own comic book. He's got his own book out, Cross. It's on the Pronto Comics publishing line. He's actually going to be making an appearance in New York Comic Con at the Javits Center within 2 weeks, actually, from October 5th to October 8th. I actually just got his booth number. I don't have it on hand right about now, but on tomorrow's episode, when I do definitely film, I'll let you guys know exactly where to check him out. He's going to have all of his material on the spread out there, so you guys can definitely take a look at what he has. And with that being said, today, if you guys haven't noticed already right about now, I'm not in the best mood myself. I'm actually it's been quite of a down day for me. Today is the birthday of my late brother, who coming up next month, it'll be 5 years that he passed away. He would have been a young 46, and I want to start off by informing to you guys that these characters right here that you see in the background, I wouldn't have had any other knowledge about them if it wasn't for him. He was my first best friend. He was my confidant. He was very harsh in criticisms with me, but he was harsh with love, and he really opened the door for to the world of comic books and video gaming for me. You know, we were very tight, me and him, and although I'm not in New York City right about now, I always figured I was really racking my brain as to how I should honor his memory, so on and so forth. And it was just a devastating process for me, because at this point it's just thinking about all the times that I had. You know, he was there for me when I was growing up as a child, and he was the first person that was there for me, period, and my younger sister as well. So I was really trying to figure out how exactly, since I'm in Florida and he's in his burial is in New York, how could I possibly honor this? How could I possibly honor this man's memory, his legacy to me, so to speak? And it dawned on me today, I haven't done a tribute to his favorite film of all time, to his favorite character of all time, and that would be Batman. His favorite character was Batman, and his favorite film was Batman. Not the Christopher Nolan trilogy, not the Joel Schumacher versions, the Tim Burton 1989 film. And I wanted to dive into that today because of him. because growing up, I was an avid Superman fan. I was a child enamored with the ideal of Superman. Christopher Reeve was a hero to me. I've said this before in previous episodes, and I really wanted to elaborate now. Um, we were the night and day. You know, Batman was the Dark Knight, of course, while Superman was the Big Blue Boy Scout, so to speak. And my brother really embraced the character of Batman, the the dichotomy of him between him and Bruce Wayne, and he really appreciated the stories of it. Honestly, and as much as I was a Superman fan myself, I did have a secret affinity for Batman, just not as much as I did for Superman, and it really kind of struck a chord with me. So this was the yin to the yang. I was the yin to his yang, really, because I was enamored with Christopher Reeve, and then finally, after reading so many comics and playing our action figures, we used to play Justice League ourselves, and we always had these awesome episodes. We played for quite some time, man. Like, I'm gonna tell you, it lasted our our episodes of Justice League. We never filmed anything, of course. We just played for our own interest, and for years, man, we were playing this game. We were playing. It was just incredible. We developed. My brother was an absolute storyteller, and he had a knack for it. I'll tell it to you guys right about now. If there was anything he could have done, he should have been publishing. He should have been one of the writers on DC or Marvel, even for that. But his affinity was more towards DC Comics, and so as I said before, his favorite character, of course, in the DC universe was Batman. And when word broke out during the late '80s, around 1989, that the Batman movie was coming out, or I think it was actually 1988 that the Batman film was coming out, everyone was extremely ecstatic over the fact that there was finally going to be another DC character other than Superman and Supergirl, because the only other character on screen from Warner Brothers was Supergirl. We got to see Batman on screen, and yet it was mixed. It was met with the news. I remember the news being met with some puzzled excitement due to the simple fact of the 1966 series. A lot of people, when they thought about Batman, they thought about the Adam West Batman, Burt Ward as Robin, and then of course you had Eartha Kitt as Catwoman, Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, Burgess Meredith as the Penguin, and Cesar Romero as a Joker. It was a very campy take on the character. It was a very campy show. There was a lot of dancing in the show. Honestly, I don't know how people I don't know how many times people can constantly berate the Batman sitcom that from the '60s for having the kablows and the bams for every time there was a fight on screen, and never not mention the dancing segments of the show. But that was just as much part of the show as anything else, and in all honesty, it was an insane television show. So when people finally heard about this movie coming, actually, this film actually happening on the big screen, people were pretty skeptical to see exactly what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, how are they going to possibly bring this character on the silver screen? Even though people already knew, avid comic book readers, especially avid Batman fans who were reading his comic books, already knew that Batman has strayed far and far away from that concept a long time ago, since the '70s. But with the success of The Dark Knight Returns, and of course you had The Killing Joke, and then you had The Death in the Family with Jason Todd. All of these dark elements that were that just pretty much propelled Batman into the spotlight, and we all just started recognizing, the people started recognizing that this is the Batman that they didn't grow up with anymore. This was a different Batman. And so it was time for him to get his shine on the screen. And what a shine it was. Man, the hype that was surrounding this film, both good and bad, has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm sorry. I've been drinking a lot of wine today, so please excuse me. But the controversy from this film that happened from good and bad, honestly, has been incredible. Because a lot of people were extremely excited due to the fact that Jack Nicholson was actually playing the Joker, even though he was playing the Joker at an extremely high salary for the time. Plus, Jack Nicholson is the man. I'm gonna tell you guys that because he actually negotiated to get not just an extremely high salary for playing this role on screen, but he also negotiated to get profits made off the film, like as well as the first, like as the action figures, so on and so forth. So he was like the first of the first to do that. Now there's a lot of actors now that are doing that exactly because any actor that plays that portrays these roles, these big roles that are known that are pretty much unknown actors. Mind you, Jack Nicholson was already known at the time, but these are other actors now that are coming into the game and they're unknown, such as Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot. I'm pretty sure Chris Hemsworth had to deal with it himself when he became Thor. Excuse me. And basically a lot of these guys just basically took a pretty they did the opposite of Nicholson. They took the low pay cut, but then again they take part of the profits, which is exactly what's happened. But Nicholson was the exact opposite. He took an extremely high pay raise, and he took the profits made from the film regarding marketing and toys and advertisements and so on and so forth. So it was an unbelievable match. And then to top it off, when Michael Keaton, though, was cast as Batman, there was a lot of the fan outcry because of the simple fact that Michael Keaton at that time was known as a comedic actor due to movies like Mr. Mom, Night Shift, and Beetlejuice, of course, which stamped his entire career as a comedic actor. Plus, he didn't have the bulk of the size to play Batman, so it ruffled a lot of feathers at that time, especially of the avid readers of the Batman books. And well, understandably so. And it prompted Warner. It was so bad that it prompted Warner Brothers to actually come out with a trailer, like a teaser. This was I think this was actually the first teaser, like the birth of the teaser trailer, to showcase exactly Michael Keaton's abilities in the character in the title as the character in the title role. So once that was released, all hell broke loose, and then to add the cherry on top of the ice cream, I don't know if you guys are fans, but they managed to score Prince to do the entire soundtrack, and that was a major deal. That was a huge deal because on top of it, it wasn't just Prince dedicate. He wasn't doing just one song for the soundtrack. He did the entire soundtrack. Every song that was on there, that was his. And he was personally asked by Jack Nicholson and Tim Burton to do so. And when he did, it was just an incredible. I think some people may have laughed. Some people laugh at it now, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I could understand the reason why they laugh at it, but I feel that that's one of the best. And you can disagree with me all you want, but I feel that that's one of the best film soundtracks of all time. Like every song on that album is something that you can nod your head to, that you can groove to, that you can think about. It literally it's definitely an impacting. It's definitely a soundtrack that definitely had an impact, and it started off with the Bat Dance, of course. And I remember having so many family members being so tired of that song, but it was a hell of it was definitely one of the biggest things to ever happen. And my brother, who was an avid Prince fan at that as well, he was ecstatic over the fact that Prince was doing the soundtrack. So here he has his favorite comic book hero of all time about to get his first major motion picture debut. To top it off, he's got it combined with his favorite musical artist of all time doing the entire soundtrack. And it took the world by storm. It really took the world by storm. This movie, I'll never forget when I went to go see it when I was young. I was a child, and we were on a family vacation to Virginia Beach, and we went to one of the movie theaters. It was an RKO theater, just to give you guys an idea as to how long ago this was. And I stayed up so late watching it because it was an incredible feature. I'll never forget being sunk into a movie the way I was at that age. And my entire family was there. My mother and my brother-in-law, for some reason, they went to go watch something else. I think they went to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was, by the way, another big movie that summer. But we were so hooked on Batman. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. I loved the show. I loved the film. It was just... the simple fact that we actually got this film it was actually it was the rebirth of the comic book films, because at that time, prior to that, as I said before, all we had was Superman and Supergirl. And at that point, the Superman films had definitely worn thin. Of course, about a year and a half to 2 years prior to Batman's release, was Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, was pretty much soured everybody's taste on it. So with that, it really didn't leave any room open or available, and it kind of left people it kind of left the executives over at Warner Brothers a little bit skeptical to do another superhero film, considering what was going on with Superman. But it worked. It worked, and it worked well for them. It worked so well for them that it managed to go ahead and they spawned Batman Returns, which is another great feature. I'm gonna do another tribute episode for that, so keep your mind, keep you guys, your eyes open up for that. But this entire episode is basically on the Batman 1989 feature, and I gotta tell you guys, man, it was an intense film. It was an intense movie. It was quite a bit different. It mixed both elements from the Dark Knight Returns and the Killing Joke, and quite and Tim Burton, who I adore as a director, who I adore as a filmmaker. The man knew how to spin it entirely around to make it work for himself, and the importance of this movie was basically so much so that it actually just it gave Batman 1989 literally rebirthed the entire comic book movie genre. When I say that, I mean that in every aspect as I say it. There wouldn't be any other films without the Batman film. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there wouldn't have been any X-Men films, there wouldn't have been Spider-Man films. Like, even though Batman had been, the first one out the gate to take it out of the park, it made more money than the Superman films, honestly. In all honesty, it really did. And but still, other studios were kind of reluctant on taking a gamble on superhero pictures, especially with what was going on at that. Especially with the money that it would cost to make them. It would possess the talent of, like, they were quite, for quite some time they were looking at James Cameron himself to go ahead and try to direct the Spider-Man feature. As interesting as that sounds, but it never got off the ground, obviously. But there wouldn't have been anything else outside of the Batman feature. Superman. Now, I know a lot, and I love Superman. He's my favorite hero of all time. I'll never take anything away from him. And I won't take anything away from Superman the movie or Superman 2. But after Superman 2, when Superman 3 and 4 came out, the interest was dying out, and they were trying too many new things that didn't really mesh well. That didn't mesh well with the audience, and it started to have that peephole into the future of comic book films, looking bleaker and bleaker, and it didn't. It wasn't. After the fact that Batman came out, it reopened that entire tunnel, and it made it an entire. It didn't make it just. It didn't just make it a tunnel. It made it its own subway system, baby. It was in and out everywhere. It was going. You know what I'm saying? They got like any direction they could take it to, they could take it, because of the simple fact that there was so much material to work with the character, and it made the studios realize that it's not just Batman that they can do it with. They can do it with other characters as well. Which is then of course you saw the birth of the X-Men features, then the Spider-Man features that came out shortly after, and it took the world by storm. The comic book film genre took the world by storm. And a lot of it is owed due to the Batman feature because of that. So with that being said, it was it was a very intense, incredible time to be alive, especially to be around all of that hype, because the simple fact of the matter was that it has spawned so many things. It spawned one of the most awesome video games ever on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was difficult as all hell, but Batman 1989 spawned an awesome port video game. It was one of the first ported video games from movie to gaming that just it looked awesome. It was awesome. It was the designs were awesome. It was the only downside of it was like, it was pretty difficult. Now to top it off, it also spawned not just that, but it spawned an entire action figure line based on the films. I think it actually reintroduced some DC characters at the time. I remember seeing a new Superman figure on the Kenner line at that time as well. And not only that, but it godfathered the DC animated universe that we all are known and well, that we all are aware of today, such as the Batman animated series, so on and so forth, Justice League, Superman the animated series. It birthed all of that. It wasn't just a breath of fresh air. It literally birthed all of those things. So a lot is due to, a lot of credit is due, a lot of kudos is due to this film because of the impact that it had on society. And then on, not just that, but the soundtrack in itself, as I mentioned before, the Prince soundtrack sold very much so. It was, I think it went double or triple platinum if I'm not mistaken, which was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And mind you, it wasn't even just, Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman, who was a long time he worked quite a long time with Tim Burton. He composed the original score for the film. So that's not even counting that, and his work on the film for the musical score for the film was absolutely phenomenal. So all that has happened and surrounded this film literally was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And then I remember that same summer, a lot of big movies were out. Of course, you had there was a lot of big movies out that same summer. Indiana Jones, as I mentioned before, in The Last Crusade with Sean Connery. We had Ghostbusters 2, which opened up a week before. Ghostbusters 2 set a box office record at that time, and 7 days later, it was literally broken by Batman. I'm not even kidding you guys. Like Ghostbusters 2 set a box office precedent for a big opening, and literally 1 week after the fact it opened, Batman destroyed it. What else? Some Lethal Weapon 2 was another huge film that was out at that time. It was out in theaters. And this was when Mel Gibson was about to blow up, like as a really A-list actor at that time, despite after Mad Max and the first Lethal Weapon film. So there was a lot of stuff there was a lot of stuff in the theaters at that time, in that timeline, especially during the summer, man. And it was an incredible summer, but Batman really overshadowed everything, and not just everything, because of the fact that Jack Nicholson literally owned the role of the Joker. There was no other. Like, Heath Ledger was a fantastic, phenomenal Joker. I will never take anything away from Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was a fantastic Joker. He was excellent. He was one of the top of the lines. But that bar that he got to, that was set beforehand by Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson, pretty much. If you guys ever see if you guys ever see The Shining, what he is in The Shining, he incorporates some of that character in The Shining as the Joker, and it was literally groundbreaking. It literally, like, it excuse me, it literally, like, wiped out all memory of like, you forgot what you knew about Cesar Romero as the Joker, because what you saw as Jack Nicholson on screen literally blew your mind. So it was just this one, it was just this huge snowball effect every time. And a lot of people complained that Jack Nicholson stole the show, which really pretty much is the case now with a lot of these films. A lot of the villains are really just like taking away the roles and overshadowing the actors that are supposedly the protagonists, rather than that the antagonists are the ones who are actually shining in the light. So that's where you get your Heath Ledgers from, and Tom Hardy's as well. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I did like Tom Hardy as Bane, but besides the fact that Jack Nicholson really owned the role as a Joker, and everything fit like a key and lock, man. Like a fitted key and lock. It was perfect. This movie literally was legit, and it started off it restarted the genre with such a shock into the central nervous system that everyone felt it, everyone wanted it. And even though people complained by the next film for Batman Returns that it was a little dark, they went ahead and decided to go with that. They wanted to make that cluster happen with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. But then, of course, people hated it. The critics hated it, and then it returned right back to Christopher Nolan, who did the Return of the Dark Knight. Honestly, so this was a feature definitely to hold its own, and it still stands the test of time. I think it'll still stand the test of time for quite a while. And I can never ever turn my back on it. I love it. It still holds so much. It still holds water so much till this day, man. That it's worth having the copy, both Blu-ray, Ultra 4K, no matter what, man. Make sure you always have it if you have a small theater. If there's a theater in your town that actually does replays of old films, make sure you check it out in the theater, because that's the one. I think that's one of the best. That's the best way to really see the movies. In the first place. But what a phenomenal film it was, and what an impact that it had on society then and in pop culture. It really changed the game, man. And it really was the first film to start the flagship of Batman being the man in all of the DC universe. As much as I hated to admit that, but it is the truth, you know. I being a Superman fan myself, I love Kal-El more than anything. I grew up watching Superman, Christopher Reeve on the screen. But yeah, you know, it really gave me a perspective on who Batman was and giving the respect that he deserves. And because of that, my brother was always the one who guided that towards me. And I always argued with him. I always defended Superman with him because it was always it was just obvious to me. Like, how can someone who is a mere mortal stand against a man who he himself can move the moon with his own strength, who can turn back the hands of time by flying backwards? You know what I'm saying? Like, these were things that me and my brother usually constantly argued about, and I was always on the end of Superman. I was so young though; like, I had really no control over my emotions as a child. So I always got eyes teary, and I got mad because he would always get the upper hand of it, and then but it changed as I got older in the years and my in my teenage years as well, early 20s, and we would have our conversations regarding the heroes, regarding the characters, and where they stand and who they stand up against. How can they possibly stand up against? And I hit, and what was the, and a lot of the times when I started to hit him with a lot of the logical explanations, he laughed. He definitely laughed because he knew those were extreme possibilities, of course, but you know. It didn't take away the fact that his favorite hero earned and garnered the respect that he really did, truthfully. And I gotta tell you guys, when you have someone that's a best friend like that every day with you, who spends every waking moment with you when you're not in school, reading comic books in a Burger King or at the comic book shop, or spending time with you as you play some games in the arcade or waste some quarters, man, it really puts into perspective what a real best friend is. And they don't come around so often. So when you do have friends of that nature in your life, my only advice would be to just cherish them, cherish every moment you have with them, because that's some unrealistic, in some unreal moment, they can disappear from your lives and vanish, and you never want to know what's the what if. And as I said before, my brother was my brother was a very talented storyteller, very talented. He could have worked for any publisher if he wanted to. He was just he was just a shy person, but he really had some great stories to tell, and he's always gonna be missed. So, with that being said, I don't want to drag you guys into a state of sadness. I'm sorry, but I wanted to give this up. I wanted to make this episode as an homage to him. Um, Definitely, if you guys ever have a chance, if you ever seen the movie or have never seen the movie, make sure you check it out, please. It's definitely one of the staples in Batman mythology, and as well as the soundtrack as well. Give it a listen to, man. If you guys aren't, even if you guys aren't Prince fans, just give it a listen to see exactly where I'm going at with this, because it's unbelievable. So, with that being said, I'm gonna end up closing out this episode because I've been quite a while with you guys already. But I want to thank you all for riding with me from the very beginning. This has been an important journey for me. This has been also a very therapeutic episode for me with you guys. I'm growing with you more and more. And if you guys have any questions or comments or suggestions for any future episodes, hit the comment section. I'm always checking to see what's going on over there with you guys. Definitely make sure you ride out and keep your eyes open for some new material. I'm going to be filming a lot more this week as well. So stay tuned. I'm going to keep you guys posted with updates. And last but definitely not least, I'm going to send a special happy birthday to my older brother. I miss you. I love you. My family misses you. We all love you. And I wait to see you again one day. I know when Justice League comes out, I will be watching it with you in spirit. And I hope you. I wish you were back here so that we could talk about what's going on. But just to let you know, I miss you, man. I hope you're in a better. I know you're in a better place. So party on like you always have been. I'm sure you're partying up there with Prince. But with that being said, take care of yourselves. You have a good one. I'll see you next time. Take care.